Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I am all hopped up on cold medicine, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm slow and leaky. I've got a bunch of tissues here. Normally, the tissues are for jerking off, but today they're just in case my nose starts going. So I was watching this video from Juan Gault, and I love me some Juan Gault. I'm not faulting Juan Gault for anything in here. His co-host sucked. Did not like his co-host. I mean, I guess your mileage may vary. I found his co-host didn't add anything. Juan Galt came in hard with facts and case citations and things like that. And his co-host was I don't know, he's just some huck. Sovereign citizens are bad, huh? Didn't really care for it. Didn't really think he added anything. Like there's no pushback. Like if he had someone on there who could give a little pushback to Juan over things, I think that'd be a lot more interesting. Like a show with Juan and who's that soft sit guy who the soft sit guy who was sitting in on Chili's channel while Chili was in jail. Not Eline, the other soft sit. Uh, Nice guy, opinionated. God, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's something like "Here's the deal" or something like that. Like if Juan could have someone like that on his channel, someone who could give him a little bit of pushback, I think that'd be a lot more interesting. But the reason why I'm doing this video is I'm doing this video live stream, whatever. Brian, thank you. I thought he had I forget. Yeah, here's the deal. Yeah, Brian from Here's the Deal. Yeah, so if Juan could have somebody like that, because Juan's a really nice guy and really respectful, totally the opposite of me, right? And Brian from Here's the Deal also seems like he's totally respectful, but put him on in a situation where Brian isn't in control. And you get a little bit of the back and forth, like, hey, what about this? And what about this? And I'm sure that Brian would still respectfully disagree. Not really have any answer, but I think something like that would be a lot more interesting. Oh, you haven't put it on your channel, Juan. I think that would be the thing would be to have him on your channel. Anyway, hi Juan. I'm not talking shit about you. This has nothing really to do with you. I do plan on playing your video, but my goal, I was watching. I was watching the comments intermittently, and I saw that Broken Sister Broken Trust was very active in the comment section. And now he is a stupid, retarded piece of shit, and I don't have any respect for him at all. I don't know if you could tell that. And I don't answer his comments in live chats or anything like that. I don't give him any attention. You're gonna say, well, you're sure giving him attention. Now, the thing is he was talking a lot in the comment section, and I don't know. At least when I quit watching, it wasn't being addressed. So what I plan on doing, and this could be really dumb or it could be really not dumb, because I didn't see all of the comments that Broken System Broken Trust made, but I figure I would go over it. And we could just kind of see what he's saying and how he's saying it. And I'm gonna have Juan's video, and I suggest you watch it. And I'm gonna copy that, and there's a link to Juan's video. Excellent video if you want to get all the case citations. Well, if you ask that in the comment section, I guess we'll go over it, because it'd be interesting to see what he has to say. And you know what? If I can't see him, but if he wants to come up, I would actually let Broken System Broken Trust up. And if anybody else wants to come up, if they have questions or whatever, you're welcome. If you just want to come up and just sit here like a bump on a log or whatever, I'm not really interested in that. But if you have questions, comments, suggestions, if you want to come up and make your question, comment, or suggestion, that's great. That's fine. I do require you to show your face, though. Like, I don't know why people don't like to show their face on the internet, but I don't want anybody. I do it for a reason. I don't want anybody jumping up here to drop a hard R or something to try to get my channel taken down. I mean, YouTube is very censorious, and it wouldn't really matter if it was me saying it or anybody else. Mayo Talk, I mean, if you want to ask a question or make a comment about mayo, I guess that's whatever, dude. But anyway, you got to show your face. You are putting your face behind whatever it is you say. You're the one on the hook for it. So anyway, we'll get to watching this. I don't really plan on commenting on anything. Like I said, anything that Juan says. No offense to Juan. He's very competent. I'm sure he knows a lot more about the sovereign citizen bullshit than I do. I'm mainly going to be looking at broken system, broken trust. So if you're saying, hey, I can't really understand what they're saying in the live stream, well, I mean, go watch his live stream. That's all I have to say. It's an excellent live stream if you want to learn about it. And I also have the volume turned down because I don't really plan on pausing it if I could help it.
We're live for the very first time. Cool. Welcome, everybody. Faction Frauds and Juan Gault.
Hey, everybody. For a while, all that kind of stuff. Just reject them.
Oh, and by the way, for all the stupid people out there, just so you know.
So let's say hello to some folks here. I see.
I don't want to. I'm not trying to speak critical of Juan, and he understands what he did and why he did it. But for all the stupid people out there, Juan's $10,000 deal thing is thank you. I'm a little under the weather, but otherwise I am healthy. Juan's bet is a sucker's bet. Prove to Juan that Juan is wrong, and you win $10,000. Juan is the judge. I mean, basically, you would have to convince the judge that the judge is wrong, and that's not a thing that you can do. That's why there's courts of appeal, but there is no court of appeal for Juan. So, I mean, it's a sucker's bet.
The Raisin, hello. Dubious Feline, Shelly, J. Ray.
Oh, I didn't mean to click that.
Frankie, Greg, good to see you, my friend. The $sign. Ray, confused because Yuri Bay.
So he's going to start answering questions and we're asking questions in here.
They had for talking one, and we had the secretary of the what constitutes the ninth. Of course, we started chasing so have the right to there have usage of it. You mean my pride exactly? It's my notice in a lot of places needed. I could do this. They're starting to become from.
Guessing on board. We don't have one of the man then
testing and
all right.
Tell me about it.
Oh, there's right to travel.
All right.
No, right now I'm traveling. You're trying to give me about.
I'm traveling.
I'm not traveling.
All right, so Broken System, Broken Trust has questions.
What do you got to say about that?
He said, "Why did Merv ask you?"
They're sticking to the script. I'm traveling. Right to travel. Everybody talks about it.
Why did Merv ask you if jurisdiction was handled in the exact same way in all 50 states? That's Law 101. Jurisdiction is not necessarily handled the same way in all 50 states because when you say the word jurisdiction, you're not really saying anything. Like that's like saying, prove pasta is cooked the same way in all 50 states. Well, what the fuck do you mean by pasta? Do you mean angel hair? Do you mean lasagna? Do you mean penne? Like, what the fuck do you mean when you say pasta? Do you mean macaroni? Do you mean gnocchi? What do you mean when you say pasta? So it's a vague question. And I don't recall that if I did ask him that question, it would probably be because I don't know. Why would I ask him that question? Is jurisdiction handled in the exact same way in all 50 states? No, because some states will allow you to get personal jurisdiction in, for example, a civil action by service by mail. Some will allow you to get personal jurisdiction in a civil action only by personal service. So it would really depend on how the state sets up certain things. Now notice I'm saying personal jurisdiction. Personal jurisdiction is a kind of jurisdiction. And if you just say, how does the state get jurisdiction over you? Well, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And most attorneys don't. And I heard Juan give an answer, and I'm not going to blow it, but he gave an answer because when you asked him about jurisdiction, his mind as an attorney went to a specific kind of jurisdiction. Why it went there, I don't know. But he went to a specific kind of jurisdiction instead of nailing you down on what the fuck kind of jurisdiction you were looking for and asking about. He's like, oh, you must mean this. So, he gave you the right answer for a specific kind of jurisdiction, but he didn't give you the entire answer for all kinds of jurisdiction, if that makes sense.
They don't even talk about how you travel. The whole thing, most of the cases are.
And why would broken system, broken trust ask you why I asked you something? I mean, only I would know why I asked you something, right?
And they're on welfare. And
can you guys hear me while I'm talking over them? If it's too confusing, let me know, and I'll turn them down more, or I'll stop them when I want to talk.
Their other states. But when they moved to California, California said, no, we're just going to pay you what your other state
All right. So he says, Merb, with the explanation Big Daddy Gault fed you, of course his expert opinion would work the exact same in all 50 states. I don't know that Juan Gault would be qualified as an expert in any state, let alone in all 50 states. I guess in theory you could qualify an attorney as an expert to discuss some legal issues, like how things work in a law office or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but normally in order to qualify an expert, that expert has to be able to give an opinion about something that would help the judge, the jury, etc. And I don't exactly know that a attorney's opinion would be able to help a judge, because the judge is an attorney. Almost universally, judges are attorneys. I mean, there's a few exceptions to that where they might not be attorneys, but that's the magic question, Merb. I don't understand what that means. And again, the each state would have its own case law and its own attorneys, and attorneys don't work like experts. You know, attorneys are opposed by another attorney, and the judge understands the law too. All right, Merb is awfully quiet. Okay, yes, I did not block him. All right, well, I'm giving these questions to me for you, because that's the kind of guy I am. And Stoney said, by the way, it's futile to answer your questions because you lack the comprehensive skills necessary to understand the answer. And that is a correct statement, by the way. Yeah, I'm getting that. It is a correct statement. I'm not giving these answers for BSBT so much as I'm giving them to entertain myself, and giving them to the people who might have been looking on and not understanding what this guy was going on about, and thinking that he may have some sort of an actual thorn to stick into the side of attorneys and judges and stuff. Some magic words that only he can decipher for you to get you out of whatever ails you. Come on, go faster. Did you hear Slavin say he's a sovereign citizen? I don't know about that. Whatever that is. Come on, I know you're asking a question. Zoom court is a godsend. Oh, is that because you can disrespect the court and commit contempt of court and not have a bailiff instantly clamp you in irons? I'll bet it is. He started asking questions in here. See, I think Mr. Gault is not out of his mental faculties, because he's just literally going over case law. Like if there like this is the E-line thing. Like when I would put case after case after case up, and E-line would be like, well, I'm an attorney and I say he's wrong. BSBT is using the E-line line of argumentation. You're wrong because I said you're wrong. All right. So, all right, here we go. First good question. Is a traffic ticket proof of jurisdiction? The answer to that is yes. It is proof of jurisdiction. Why do I say that? Well, because in every state that I am aware of, the cop makes you sign the ticket. And what you're signing for is, you're not signing that you're guilty of anything, but you're signing the ticket saying that I will appear. If you don't appear, a bench warrant can issue, right? So you're signing saying I will appear. Really what you're doing is the criminal equivalent of signing the summons, the proof of service of summons. You're a notice of acknowledgement and receipt. You're saying, yes, I have received the summons and complaint. I'm aware of when the court trial is, and bad things can happen if I don't go. Now, in the civil world, you can get a default entered against you. You might get a default judgment entered against you. They can't really do that in the criminal world, at least not as far as I'm aware. But no signatures in MA. Interesting. But it's still been served. So, like, again, going back to the civil world, a process server doesn't have to make you sign for the receipt of the summons. He just has to prove that you received it. And how does he prove it? Well, he signs a proof of service of summons. He says, I served summons. Here's date, time. Here's the person I served it on. There you go, right? That's a proof of service of someone. Does that summons? Does it prove that the summons was served? Yes. Why are you up on the table? The chickens jump up on the table to avoid getting raped. But what that does, what you signing the ticket, or what the cop issuing you that citation, he hands that citation to you. He's now served you with it. What it does is it shows that you have been served. You've been served. You now have notice. Now, if you don't appear, the court can issue a bench warrant. The court can issue a warrant for your arrest. The court can say, "Oh, next cop who pulls you over can arrest you and haul you in front of a magistrate." The court now has jurisdiction over you. The court has jurisdiction over you, personal jurisdiction. The ticket itself, and Juan gave this answer. I've been letting this run. I don't know how far ahead we are. He was asking a lot. All right, so we were about there. So the ticket itself has all of the this is Juan's answer. The ticket itself has all the prima facie evidence of jurisdiction on it, right? So the ticket will tell you what court you have to go to. The ticket will tell you where the infraction occurred. The ticket will tell you what the infraction was. The ticket will tell you all that kind of thing, right? And that is, courts, generally speaking, have specific kinds of jurisdictions. California, we have one court of general jurisdiction, the Superior Court. A lot of states will have like city courts and parish courts and county courts and district courts and, justice courts and all sorts of courts, right? And each one of those courts has a very specific jurisdiction. That would be a subject matter jurisdiction, which is different than a personal jurisdiction. And normally on a complaint, back to the civil world, on a complaint, the complaint will tell you why and how jurisdiction and venue are appropriate at that particular court. The ticket tells you why or where subject matter jurisdiction and venue are appropriate. So the ticket does all of those things. Now, is it proof of it? No, it's prima facie evidence. It's a rebuttable presumption. If you don't raise some sort of a challenge to jurisdiction, the court's just going to accept it. But if you challenge jurisdiction, then at trial, most likely they're going to have to prove it. And even if you don't challenge it, I still think that would be one of the elements that they'd have to prove, would be that the jurisdiction of the court you're in has subject matter jurisdiction. They don't have to show the law that gives that court the jurisdiction, but they have to plead or they have to prove the facts that, if true, would give that court the jurisdiction, the subject matter jurisdiction. So if it's let's say it's a city court in a state, you would have to show by the facts that, like by the cop testifying, yeah, I pulled the person over at this intersection, which is, with either he has to say it's within the territorial jurisdiction of the city, or the court could take notice, judicial notice, that yes, that intersection on every map is in the city limits. So I hope that makes sense. And then he says that case from 2 years ago was resolved. I don't know what he means by that. You showing up to court is proof of jurisdiction. If you didn't think that jurisdiction, you wouldn't show up. That is a good point. He did show up. He acquiesced to the jurisdiction of the court. So that's a problem for him. But But the court had personal jurisdiction over him anyway, because he was given the ticket. The traffic. So, all right. So he says showing up to court proof of jurisdiction. I thought it was a traffic ticket. Well, both of them can be. Both of them can be. You can acquiesce to personal jurisdiction of the court by showing up there. Again, go back to the civil case. If you're not served, but you show up, the court gets jurisdiction over you either on the date you were served or the date you appeared. Have you ever seen these arguments work? No. I have never seen them work. I admittedly don't do hardly any criminal work, and I've never had to represent a sovereign citizen, and I never would make sovereign citizen arguments, and I'm not a prosecutor. So the odds of me ever seeing these arguments made, let alone work, are somewhere in the slim to none range. I have had sovereign citizens come into my office looking for representation, starting to spout that stuff. And I'm like, no. If I'm going to represent you, I'm going to represent you as an attorney, not a sovereign citizen. We're going to do it what I like to call the right way. And and if you want to do it your way, well, then you can do it your way. All right. And if I don't show up, they don't have jurisdiction. Awesome. Well, I guess you would find out, because the ticket says most likely that if you don't appear, that a bench warrant will issue. And I think they still would. And I think they would. And I think that you would lose, which is why you didn't show up. See, there is no conviction in him, no inside conviction, no personal conviction in the strength of his arguments. If he really thought that his argument was good, then he would have shown up and fought it all the way, because then he could rub it in Juan Gault's face. He could rub it in my face. Ha, the court didn't have jurisdiction and I proved it. I mean, you saw how much delight that Eline and his little yokels took in saying that I was wrong when Chile was convicted or acquitted, or when his conviction was reversed. So, I mean, these kind of people are just looking for it. They just want that, I was right moment, right? If he really believed it, he would stick to his guns. He would go through it, and he would try his best to get his ticket thrown out for lack of jurisdiction. And we're going to go through. All right. He says, Jake, well, how do we know it doesn't help? Doesn't it help to have factual evidence of jurisdiction on paper and written down? See, that's a really weird fucking thing to say. Factual evidence of jurisdiction on paper and written down. Well, what the fuck is the ticket then? What the fuck is the ticket? You got a copy of the ticket. The policeman handed it to you, and so you have a copy of it. You've been served. The ticket says all the things on it that it needs to say to establish subject matter jurisdiction. Like, what do you think that ticket is? But then again, the question would have to become, what do you think factual evidence is? What is factual evidence? Is there such a thing as non-factual evidence? What would that be? Fictional evidence? Would fictional evidence even be evidence still? Could you have fictional evidence? I don't think you could. Factual evidence is something that makes a fact more probable, or a factual allegation. For those of you who like to get hung up on grammar, technically it's a factual allegation. But a evidence is something that makes a fact more likely to be true. Oh, it can't be a fact if it's not true. Shut the fuck up, faggot. A evidence is something that makes a fact more likely to be true. Or evidence could also be something that makes a fact less likely to be true. It just it's going to play around with facts. Evidence is something that tends to prove or disprove facts. So what is factual evidence? I don't understand what that means. It's hard to argue with someone who misuses words. Because words have there's a reason why lawyers get the kind of education that they get. And our profession is very oriented on what do words mean. Especially when we're doing our jobs. When it comes to legal words have specific meanings. And if they don't have specific meanings, well, I mean, a lot of the words have specific legal meanings. If it's used at all in a different way, then there would be something in like a statute saying, for this statute, this word is going to mean X. We're very word oriented. But what, like, if he's saying that the ticket itself isn't factual evidence, then what is factual evidence? What writing on a piece of paper would satisfy him? Because if there was writing on a piece of paper, I think this is just like a fool's errand. Because let's say that you gave him a piece of paper that says the court has jurisdiction over your ticket, over you, right? So subject matter jurisdiction and personal jurisdiction. You give him that piece of paper, and he'd be like, "Oh, just because it's written down doesn't make it true. Just because, like, who are you to write this down? Where did I agree to let you be my boss?" I mean, it would be one of those things. It would be stupid. It would be a waste of time. There is nothing written down on pieces of paper that would ever convince him ever. I don't believe all the opinions. I only believe facts on paper. So if Rosin, if Rosin wrote, "It is a fact that the court has jurisdiction," if she wrote that on a piece of paper, it would be somehow different than if she typed it in a YouTube chat. Oh no, MSG. Oh no, I'm all hopped up on cold medicine. A little lightheaded. My nose actually hasn't been. I really dosed myself pretty good, so my nose hasn't been running. It was running like a faucet earlier, but I am all at once drowsy and amped up off the cold medicine. So I got to do something to keep my brain busy to, instead of just laying there and like not being able to sleep. I got to do something. So I figured I would answer BSBT's questions, not for BSBT, but for everybody else. For everybody else who might wonder what the answers are, because there are a lot of people arguing with him in here. There are a lot of people arguing with BSBT who aren't making very good arguments, and so call this my community service. Call this my pro boner community service work. All right. So he doesn't want opinions. If you say something he doesn't like, by the way, it's an opinion. But if it's something that he does like, then it's facts, right? And it's just got to be on paper. I got a big drug problem, as in the drugs don't really work very well. All right, so he says, why appear at all? To set the record straight and see if my public servants are capable of acting in good faith. What does any of that mean? So the colloquial term, setting the record straight, I understand what that means in a colloquial term, but in the don't peck at the back of my screen, motherfucker. You know what? Hey, I like you. You're a nice birdie, but don't. You got to move. You got to move. Come on, go. Get hop off. Hop along, Cassidy. So setting the record straight is like a colloquialism. In legal terms, there is a record in all. Maybe I'm going too far, but in California, everything in a criminal case there is a transcript of all the hearings in a criminal case. I don't think it would apply to a traffic ticket. It doesn't apply to a traffic, but in a criminal action, there would be a record of all the hearings and proceedings, and the purpose of generating that record, there'd be a reporter's transcript. That's the record of what was said at these hearings, and then there's the clerk's transcript. That would be the record of everything that was submitted, all the paperwork that was submitted back and forth by the judge, by the prosecution, by the defense. So you have the reporter's transcript and the clerk's transcript. Those are records of what happened that will only be useful on appeal. So if like you go to trial, you're not gonna whip out a copy of the reporter's transcript to say, well, 3 months ago I said this, or 3 months ago there was this hearing on jurisdiction or whatever. You're not going to do that. Yeah, there used to be really good drugs, but I guess they were the precursors for like meth or something. I'm not sure entirely, but they started locking them up, and now you just can't find them anywhere because no one wanted to go through the hassle of. So all the stuff that you could actually get, at least around me, I guess maybe there's too many meth heads buying up all the good shit or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, it's all the. Yeah. Anyway, so the record's only useful for appeal. So setting the record straight, what does that mean? You could generate a record for appeal, but you have to remember that the Court of Appeal is going to look at jurisdiction in the same way the trial court does. I mean, if it was such a fucking big deal about proving jurisdiction or whatever, that the system would change to accommodate it, if that makes sense. Like there have been some pretty big milestone cases in American jurisprudence, like the Brady what is it, the Brady Act or the Brady case? I don't remember what it is, but you get the Brady evidence from the prosecutor. They have to turn over all of the evidence that's going to be used against you, all the evidence that could be exculpatory. They have to turn over any of the, if the cop has anything bad on the record, they have to turn that over too. Wait, what are we doing? Sorry about that. I didn't think anybody wanted to see me blow my nose. Anyway, so that's the record. I might be a little scatterbrained right now. So setting the record straight, I don't know what you're going to do on that. Facts are determined at trial. There's going to be a finder of fact. There's going to be a finder of fact at trial. And that finder of fact is either going to be the judge or the jury. And that finder of fact is going to look at all the evidence and make a determination on what the facts are. So you trying to set the record straight about any factual issues at something prior to trial is just wasting everybody's time. Second of all, they're not your public servants. You don't see, even just that terminology, even just that language, my public servant. Either they are a servant of the public, which is everyone or they're your servant. It's not both. When you think about the public, think about it like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has a lot of shareholders. Each one of those shareholders owns a little bit of Coca-Cola, right? Each one of the, like little Timmy might have been given a share for his 15th birthday. Grandma might have 100 shares. I don't know. BlackRock might have 15 billion shares, whatever, you know. But the shares don't give you any special rights of ownership other than the right to vote at stockholder meetings, right? You can't walk in just because you own a share of Coca-Cola doesn't mean you could walk into a Coca-Cola refinery and start ordering employees around. You can't be like, this is my employee. I'm a shareholder. I've contributed to that employee's pension by buying this share. So he's my Coca-Cola employee. No, he's Coca-Cola's employee. And your only influence on Coca-Cola is at the shareholder meetings where most likely all you're doing is voting for directors, if that. So that's a very apt, I think, if I do pat myself on the back, a very apt analogy for public servants. The public owns everything, but each individual person owns fucking nothing of it. So, you know, you might be able to vote in your town, but if you leave town, it's not like a Coca-Cola stock. You don't get to keep voting in your town. If you've moved out, you can no longer vote for the mayor, right? But while you're there, just by being there, by being a resident there, you own this right to vote for the mayor, etc. And that's about the extent of it. And the public employees, the people employed by the city, state, county, federal government, they don't owe you shit. They owe the public their duty. They owe a duty to the public, not to you. You're nothing, you're nobody. I'm nothing, I'm nobody. The public is who they owe the duty to. So just by saying my public servants, just right there, it's an oxymoron. It can't be that way. And then he says to see if they're capable of acting in good faith. What would it be to act in bad faith? I don't even know what that would look like. What would it look like for a public servant to act in bad faith? The prosecutor is bringing the action. What would it look like if he was acting in bad faith? He wasn't there. He didn't give you the ticket. What, the cop already gave you the ticket by the time you get into court. So the cop has made these allegations against you. The prosecutor most likely assumes these allegations to be true. The judge most likely is, what is corporate jurisdiction? I don't know. I have no idea what corporate jurisdiction is. But but I do know that sovereign citizens don't understand what corporations are. Corporations are any entity that lives past the death, that survives the death of the founders. It's basically a separate entity from the founders. So like a corporation is an entity, or it's a business corporation has shareholders. And if any shareholder dies, it doesn't really fucking care. The shares can get either bought back by the corporation or go to someone else. The founding people don't matter, right? The United States is a corporation. It's a corporation that was formed by the 50 states. They all agreed to this form of government. They all joined in on this form of government. And the form of government is going to outlast the lives of the founding fathers. But see, that's the thing, Neil. That's the thing. The prosecutor doesn't lie on the ticket. The ticket is written by the cop outside of court. Well, see, you could have out-of-state corporations, like in California. An out-of-state corporation can do business in the state of California as long as it registers with the Secretary of State. So I still don't know. I mean, call me stupid. I don't know. But how would the prosecutor know the cop lied? I guess, so here's the thing. Like, I guess, in theory, the cop could write a ticket and then go to the prosecutor, be like, hey, man, I'm really pulling one over on this broken system, broken trust, knucklehead, right? I totally lied on the ticket, but do me a favor, bro, and like prosecute him for it anyway. I'll get up on the stand and I'll lie. Functionally, how would you prove that? Now, he went to court. Remember, look at what he's saying here. Like, he appeared to set the record straight and see if his public servants are capable of acting in good faith. How would you set that straight? How would you correct the record on that? How would you show that the prosecutor knew the cop lied? You might be able to believe the cop lied, but how would you know? I mean, I guess maybe if you were standing there. So now the allegation have to be that broken system, broken trust was fucking standing there, and he heard the cop say this to the prosecutor, and he knew that the cop wasn't like joking around or something. Like, I mean, just the how far you have to go to make that scenario make any sense should tell you that that's not what's going on in his head. Who knows what the fuck's going on in his head, but none of it makes any sense. So then he goes on to say, Jake, I don't tell them they don't have jurisdiction. I don't understand what that means. I don't tell them they don't have jurisdiction. Okay. Because I don't know they could have it. Oh, they could have it. All right. So they could have jurisdiction. So you're admitting that much. So I guess now the only issue is that they have to prove it to you for some reason. I don't know why. I just want to see it. Well, they don't have to prove anything to you. They do, like, it, not for traffic tickets, but if there's a criminal case, they do have to provide you with all the evidence. Like I said, they have to provide you or your attorney with all the evidence that's going to be used against you, and all the evidence that could potentially exonerate you. So if you're entitled to it, they would have to provide you with all the evidence. But see, the problem with broken system, broken trust is he doesn't understand what jurisdiction is. How do you prove to someone what that they have that you have jurisdiction over them if they don't know what the word jurisdiction means? There's this tribe in somewhere in the Pacific Island where it's the cargo cult stuff. Back in World War II, the U.S. was dropping just tons of supplies on these islands, and the natives thought that it was the gods delivering these things to them, and they didn't understand it, but they could see kind of the form of it. So they make these like things that look like planes and stuff to try to convince the cargo gods to return. And I kind of like, so they have no understanding of what like a plane is. They have a general, they can like draw a picture kind of sort of it, but they have no idea like what it is, how it works. That's kind of what broken system, broken trust is. He has the glimmer of a grasp of what jurisdiction is, but he doesn't understand it well enough to even know that there's different kinds of jurisdiction. And so he wouldn't know what facts would have to be proven to establish any one of the different kinds of jurisdiction. Like personal jurisdiction, super easy to establish. Cop walks in, says, I gave him the ticket. The court has jurisdiction. Right there. Boom. Just by a cop walking in saying, I gave him the ticket. And maybe he could get up on the stand and say, oh, the cop never gave me the ticket. I've never seen this cop before in my life. Well, then you run into the problem of traffic dash cams. Yeah. But my point here is that BSBT wouldn't understand what he was looking at because he doesn't like. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Showing someone an X-ray who's not a doctor, you show them an X-ray, and you're like, okay, here's the proof that you have cancer. And your average person is just going to look at that X-ray and be like, there's lighter areas and darker areas. I don't even know what part of the body this is. Is this a part of a body? I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you either way. This might be a body part. It might not be. This might be the coffee stain that was left on a X-ray image by a careless X-ray technician. I don't know, right? That's what broken system, broken trust is. He's looking at an X-ray as a layman. He doesn't know, like, I don't know, is there cancer there? Is there not? I don't fucking know. What is even cancer? All right, we're back to it. He says, Jake, a court that upholds rights. Oh, wait, hold on a second. I need to go to live chat replay. No. Oh, here we go. All right. I was in Josh's chat today. Just whacked out of my mind on cold medicine. Just talking inane, just saying like stupid shit. I'm gonna blow my nose. Pardon me. Anyway, some of the shit that YouTube blocked, it was absolutely insane. I sent Josh a text of one of it. So YouTube censored me typing in chat, and this is a quote: I would pay for pay-per-view to watch Todd fight midgets. YouTube censored that. And by censored, I mean I typed it, and then what I do, my little trick is I type it in top chat, and then I switch to live chat. And if it's not there, also it'll disappear for a little bit longer before it appears in top chat if YouTube's going to censor it. If it's tickled their little algorithm. Don't shit on me, thank you. So I'll type it in top chat, I'll switch over to live chat, and if it's gone, I know, well, YouTube ate it. They're talking about something else, and I typed in like you better paint your roof blue to avoid the space lasers. I didn't even call it Jewish space lasers. I just said space lasers, and YouTube disappeared me on that. I just don't understand it. It's so weird. Like, and I couldn't like replicate it. I'd type in like paint your roof blue and it would go through. And I'd type paint your roof red and it wouldn't. I'd be like, what? Crazy. Anyway, we were looking at okay, here we go. I want to see it. So you appear to inform they don't have jurisdiction. No. What is he talking about? What is he responding to? I think he's responding to BSBT. Can you define good faith? And he says, I believe this is a response to that. He says, a court that upholds rights. And my nose is going to leak. Sorry, my eyes started watering and everything. Okay. So he defines good faith, apparently, as a court that upholds rights. Well, so the problem is, first of all, what rights? You've already had the right of notice and the opportunity to be heard. You've had an arraignment. I think you'd appear at an arraignment. That's also a right. You have the right to an arraignment. You have the right to be notified of the cause and nature of the charges against you, or something like that. I forget how exactly they phrase it. You have the right to an attorney in certain circumstances. I don't know if he qualified for an attorney. That's not the court for YSL. Isn't that the young thug? The one with the attorney, Brian Steele? Oh, I wonder if Brian Steele won his appeal. That'd be good. That'd be interesting to look up later. Yeah. He doesn't know what his rights are. So how would he know if a court was upholding it? But he's already had, just by the time he gets into that court, he's already had a lot of his rights upheld. So it would be interesting to know what right he thinks isn't being upheld, if any. So he says that would be an indicator of acting in good faith. He says, all I have are opinions and great questions. Well, I guess we can agree to disagree on the great questions part. So they ask him, what gives you the right to have your questions answered? He says, nothing gives me the right to have any questions answered. So why do you try to make them prove to you they have jurisdiction? That's not that. It's a bit non sequitur. If you don't have the right to have any questions answered, why do they have to prove to you jurisdiction? The judge doesn't seem to be bothered by it. And the judge would be the determiner of whether or not you have, or whether or not the state has jurisdiction, or whether or not the court has jurisdiction, whether or not the state has established jurisdiction, and whether or not the court has it. So the court would be the determiner of that, and the court seems to be fine with it. You seem to be the only one with the problem. And you also argue with the court when the court says that that it's not the right place or time or whatever. He has a supersedious bond from the Georgia Supreme Court bypassing the appellate court. Ooh, the judge was replaced. Nice. I should look into that. But this doesn't make any fucking sense. The supersedious bond, I think, just lets you stay out pending appeal. And if the Georgia Supreme Court granted the supersedious bond, that's fine. But that doesn't mean that he gets to actually appeal straight to. Maybe you just mean that the Georgia Supreme Court granted the supersedious bond, but he would still get heard by the appellate court. YSL trial judge recused. A Fulton County Superior Court judge has ordered the Judge Uriel Glanville be excused from further handling of the case. So I'm gonna guess they kicked it out to a different county to have a different county look at the motion for recusal. I'm gonna guess. And that judge booted him. That's good. I watched that Glanville guy. Oh, like, I mean, I've seen bad judges, but this guy was same county? What county is the YSL trial in? It is in Fulton County. Interesting. I'm surprised they didn't kick it out to a different county. That is interesting. It didn't boot him. Granted the motion for recusal. 2 judges wrote it. Man, no one's been keeping me informed of this shit. I'd like to. I might look for that ruling later, since my Discord has apparently been failing me. Bastards. That's a great question. Why did he run? Anything that holds him accountable is not good faith, probably. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure that he actually had bias. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure he actually had bias. I would not have accused him of having a bias. I don't have a bias. I don't know who this young thug or whatever the fuck his name is. I don't know them. I don't have any affinity for them. I've seen a little bit of I guess his name was like Little Woody. I saw the whole thing with that whole day with the attorney Steele. And that shit, like that a judge would have the prosecutor and attorney in his office on an ex parte where he is apparently eliciting information from the witness without the defense there to cross-examine or object or anything. Like, that is so outside of the realm of what could even possibly be acceptable that I'm fucking shocked. So I don't necessarily think that's bias on the part of the judge, but that's a really fucking stupid judge. Like a 10 out of 10. What the fuck is wrong with you kind of stupid judge? And that the judge didn't think that there was anything wrong with it is even more, I don't know. Sometimes, like, I understand that judges, generally speaking, are elected positions. And see, here's a problem. It doesn't pay a whole hell of a lot to be a judge. They, like in California, you get like, at least in this area, I think you get like a couple $100,000 a year, which I get it. Sounds like a lot. I get it. Like, I'm not saying it's chump change. It's good money. But you could make so much more as an attorney. I'm not a particularly high earning attorney. I mean, my billing rate's $2.95 an hour. I get it, right? I make more money than judges. Why would anybody want to be a judge? I mean, the contempt thing with Steele, not knowing which one had criteria. The contempt thing with Steele was fucking stupid. There is a reason that every fucking attorney that I have heard of who has ever mentioned anything about it was like, why the fuck would Steele be held in contempt in the first place? Why the fuck would the judge think that he had a right to know Steele's source? Like, I I'm fucking shocked, right? Like the contempt thing, like he blew right past. I'm sorry, I'm just rambling, guys. Like, don't expect a whole hell of a lot. I'm fucking looped. There's an argument tactic where when you know you can't win on a position that is being offered against you, like where you're on the defense, there is an argument tactic where essentially you ignore that and you put the other person on the defensive, right? So if you're like, honey, why were you late picking up the kids today? If she says something like, well, why do you have lipstick on your collar? Well, it's an argument tactic. It doesn't necessarily have merit. It's generally speaking, I'm uncomfortable with and not able or prepared to defend this particular allegation. So when Steele was like, this is a real fucking problem, and number one, we want the fucking transcript for what was said, because this might be like case ending kind of bullshit where the like Woody might be compromised, and so we can no longer in theory the criminal case might have to get dismissed with prejudice, right? Or like it might just be that the judge has to recuse himself or whatever. But then the judge goes back, you have to tell me or I'm going to hold you in contempt. And so I was a bit shocked, right? I was a lot of bit shocked. I'm like, well, that's really fucking weird. And then the big guns came in. The defense league, the defense lawyers, the defense whatever, they came in. Boy, they were fucking hot to trot. They were coming down hard in the paint. And they were citing cases, and I looked at the cases, and all the cases that I read, I'm like, well, if you add all these, there's no case like exactly on point because it just something so fucking stupid that it wasn't really contemplated. This was the first time it had happened in exactly this way, but you could connect the dots from the cases they cited. I looked them up. You can find they're all on Google Scholar. I looked them up and read them, and I'm like, oh, he's fucked. Like, what the fuck is this judge doing? Like, he can't do this. So then he was like, well, I'm going to hold him in contempt. And they're like, civil or criminal? And he was like, criminal. But I'm going to hold him until he says whatever, right? Until he ponies it up. And everybody, me included, were like, what the fuck? Like that's not criminal. That's civil contempt. Like how retarded are you, judge, that you don't know the difference between criminal contempt and civil contempt? Civil contempt is where they hold you until you do the thing that you're supposed to do. Criminal contempt is where you did a bad thing and now we're punishing you for it. And the judge is like, I'm holding you in criminal contempt because I have to do it this way, or else you get to appeal and everything like that. So I have to hold you in criminal contempt. But he did, in the judge's defense, he did come out with a very, very well-crafted order on the criminal attempt or criminal contempt. Because basically he said in his order that what was it? Steele had to report every weekend for he had to go to jail every weekend. He had to report every weekend to jail and stay in jail over the weekend. And that it would continue until the contempt was like, basically he left it open for Steele to just tell him who the person was who leaked the information, and that would cure the contempt and he'd no longer have to go to jail. 10 weeks. What a fucking dick. Anyway, my point, in case you haven't missed it, was that Glanville dude had no fucking business being a judge. At least not for a trial of that magnitude. No business being a judge. Anyway, let's continue on with a little bit of broken system, broken trust. Because why not? Why not switch from a famous case that everybody wants to talk about, the YSL case, and go to a fucking 2-bit YouTuber who probably gets like 40 people watching on live stream, and you're like, oh geez, John, you only got 50. Well, but all the people watching him hate him. Oh wait, all the people watching me hate me too. But that's not the fucking point. The point is that I'm not doing this for fame, fortune, or money. I'm doing this because I'm retarded. Oh, here we go. All right. He says, oh, wait, we jumped quite a bit. Jumped quite a bit all at once. That's what she said. In a court of law, you're presumed innocent until proven guilty. Oh, boy.
All right, double D's. Well,
around, but
yeah, only essential traveling. You can't go anywhere. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm between countries all the time, so you can't tell me I can't go anywhere. And they tried to, and then until they
unread that. Yes,
it's close.
To you, Josh. So
Right.
You haven't gained anything.
This morning. Yeah.
Well, manipulating this.
How did I jump this?
That. All this. Yes.
David Wynn Miller people. I can see that. David Straits people. Yeah. I don't see how or not.
Well, let's just start here, I guess. He says, do I have the right to be presumed innocent? Right to be technically, okay, what was that case? Jackson? Supreme Court case. Jackson? Supreme Court case. Jackson. I think it was Jackson. A presumption of innocence. No, it wasn't that one. 1979? I think it was 1979. Jackson versus Virginia. There we go. There we go. And Winship is also deals with the presumption of innocence. Presumption of innocence. Yeah, I guess Winship is the case that held it, but there is a constitutional problem. Yada yada. Winship. So the 14th Amendment, right to due process, means that the state has to presume you to be innocent. Now, no. You are presumed innocent. The problem is people don't understand what that means. People don't understand what it means. The presumption of innocence means that all right, so let's go to the California rules of evidence, because it will explain it a lot better than my fucking fucked up ass will. It's going to be 600 and something. I think this is where we start. Except as otherwise provided by law, a party has a burden of proof as to each fact, the existence or non-existence of which is essential to the claim for relief or defense which he is asserting. That's the basis, the basic. Burden of proof on. Here we go. Aha! All right, so the party claiming that a person is guilty of a crime or wrongdoing has the burden of proof on the issue. That's the presumption of innocence. So the burden of proof on that. So what that is saying is that for it is presumed that the person is innocent. The person who's trying to say that you're guilty has the burden of proving the guilt. That's why you're never found innocent. That's why you're found not guilty. Because the burden is on the state to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You don't have to prove innocence. And so it is a burden of proof to prove the guilt. And then what is it, like 605 or 606? So the effect of a presumption affecting the burden of proof is to impose upon the party against whom it operates the burden of proof as to the non-existence of the presumed fact. So what that is saying is that for every fact, the starting point is that it shows the defendant is innocent. If the defense can't overcome that, or if the prosecution can't overcome that, then and in fact, down here, so there are other presumptions about the burden of proof. Like for example, here's lists. There's lists of presumption affecting the burden of proof. So, for example, a ceremonial marriage is presumed to be valid, right? So someone who says that the ceremonial marriage is not valid has the burden of proving that it's not valid. I don't know how exactly that could be used in a. Oh, okay. So let's say that you're being accused of bigamy. Bigamy, you. If you're being accused of bigamy, and the state shows that there was a ceremonial marriage between you and person one, and then you went off and married and have an actual marriage certificate for person two, and they want to charge you with bigamy, right? Well, normally a ceremonial marriage is presumed to be valid, but because of 607, in a criminal action, they would have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, essentially, that the ceremonial marriage was valid. And if the defense proves, or if the defense establishes a reasonable doubt that the ceremonial marriage was valid, well, then they've effed it up for the prosecution. So presumption of innocence is a evidentiary issue. It has nothing to do with whether or not you're guilty or innocent. It is an evidentiary issue. That's all it relates to. It relates to the burden of proof, an evidentiary issue. So does he have the right to be presumed innocent? Well, we've established that the due process clause of the 14th Amendment requires the state as a starting point to presume him to be innocent. And my nose is about to. Fire Moth backwards says, wasn't a state where judges don't have to be lawyers, was it? For a long time, lawyers. So I know a lot of states have rules for lower courts that, like justice courts and things like that, where you don't necessarily have to be a lawyer for a lower court. For a long time, there were municipal courts in California. I think those ended somewhere in the 80s. I could be wrong on that. They haven't, municipal courts haven't been a thing since I've been practicing law. But judges in those municipal courts did not have to be attorneys. And cool loophole, when California merged the municipal courts into the superior courts and made just one court of general jurisdiction, judges who had been municipal court judges for at least 16 years or so, it's been a long time since I've looked at it, take that with a grain of salt, inspect what you expect and all that fun stuff. But they got grandfathered in, so you could stay and be a superior court judge if you weren't a licensed attorney. After that change in the law, though, only superior court judges could be judges, and they had to be licensed practicing attorneys. Yeah, so I mean, it's not as scary. Normally, they're handling less problematic issues. Number one. Number two, there's bench guides. There's resources available. They face a lot of shit day in, day out that's the same as the previous day. So not necessarily that big of a deal, but there is obviously appellate review. So anything they make. What qualifications did they need that? I don't remember. Oh, if you're asking rights on, they have to get voted in, probably. I don't know. I'm not familiar with Pennsylvania law. Where were we though? So yes, he has the right to be presumed innocent. I don't know if he understands that right. So if they can't throw you in jail, they don't have jurisdiction. So judges can only throw you in jail under a very narrow range of circumstances. For example, going to my home turf, since I am a first-year family law attorney, judges have jurisdiction over you in a divorce from the date that you either were served with the divorce, the petition for divorce, or the date you first appeared. That's when they had jurisdiction over you. Now, what does that allow them to do? Well, those facts in and of themselves allow them to divide up your assets, make custody orders for your children, or at least children that you share with the other person in the divorce. Maybe even order you to pay attorney's fees or other things like that. Can they throw you in jail, though? No. Does that mean they don't have jurisdiction over you? No, it's not just the throwing in jail that gives them jurisdiction over you. What shows that a court has jurisdiction over you, i.e. personal jurisdiction, is really what he's saying. So he's talking about personal jurisdiction right now when he says if they can't throw you in jail, they don't have jurisdiction. I'm assuming he means over you. So in order for so they can have jurisdiction over you without being able to throw you in jail. In order to throw you in jail, you either have to commit contempt or be in a criminal court where a potential sentence includes, but is not necessarily limited to, jail time. And he says, so if they can't throw you in jail, they don't have jurisdiction. Well, what if you're in a court for a felony case where the only possible sentences are prison time? Does that mean a court can never have jurisdiction over you if the only possible sentence is prison time?
Well, that's what I saw with the Mark Steven followers. He's the first one I really attacked as a pseudo lawyer good trust, whether he realizes or not, tries to use those tired old scenarios that Mark Stevens would promote.
So broken system, broken trust goes on to ask Stoney, do I have the right to be presumed innocent of all the elements of a crime? Yes or no? And the answer to that is a very simple yes. The state has the burden of proving every element of the crime that they've charged you with. If they can't prove every element, if there's one element of that crime that they cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you are guilty of, then you get to walk.
And of course, he's no longer around. But there were that is proven to be it's the way, and he thinks he. No,
Yeah.
He just got,
And Judge Slavin is
I like the one that told him you're.
But see, the thing that he's thinking there is that jurisdiction is an element of a crime. And we're going to go back to here. We're going to go back to here. We're going to go back to the penal code. And we're going to go into crimes and punishments. We're going to pick a crime. We're going to pick, I don't know, homicide. So the elements of homicide is it has to be an unlawful killing of a human being with malice aforethought. There's four elements. Nowhere in there does it talk about jurisdiction. Let's go to Casey. No. Is it Casey? That's civil. CalCrim. Right? CalCrim. Yeah, that's the ticket. CalCrim. I'm downloading the PDF. All right. Share this tab instead. Oop. So let's go to Control F. Malice aforethought. All right. So these are the jury instructions. These are the jury instructions for murder. And the jury instructions are intended to instruct the jury on what they need to find in order to be able to convict the defendant of murder, right? So the defendant is charged in count whatever with murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187. To prove that the defendant is guilty of this crime, the people must prove that, number one, this is going to be an either or. So let's just omit the or. Number one, the defendant committed an act that caused the death of another person. And is there. And two, when the defendant acted, he had a state of mind called malice aforethought. And then if element 3 is only if you're instructing for excusable or justifiable homicide. So that's what you have to prove. You have to prove that he committed an act that caused the death of another person with malice aforethought. Now, it doesn't talk about the unlawful, but so if it's a lawful killing, if it's allowed by the law, like for example, if you're the executioner, well, you'd be killing another person and you'd be intending to do it, yada yada, but it'd be lawful, so it would be chargeable under Penal Code Section 187. But you get the point. So nowhere in there is it talking about jurisdiction as an element of the crime. Jurisdiction isn't an element of the crime. It's not an element. They're still asking which elements that he's presumed guilty of. You're not presumed guilty of any elements. A dismissal is a win. So there were some questions. There were some questions in the comment section about, why do judges allow some of these soft sit cases to get dismissed, yada yada. Well, there's a reason why I've never taken a traffic ticket case, because I can't justify charging $2.95 an hour to try to defend someone on a traffic ticket that's only could be like $500, right? But I always advise people to show up. Why do I advise people to show up? Well, if the cop doesn't show up, you win. The cop doesn't show up, you've won. Congratulations, you win. Is it a technical victory? Yes. Does it mean that speeding is somehow not a crime or not an infraction, not a violation of the motor code? Does it mean that they can't enforce the speeding laws? No. It just means that cop didn't show up for that hearing. The witness against you did not appear. So it doesn't fucking mean anything, except it is a win, right? So how can the judge allow it? Well, the judge has to allow it. If the cop doesn't show up, what the fuck is the judge going to do? You're here on the day of your trial. The date of your trial is set. The cop's not there. What's the judge going to do? The judge has to let you go. Administrative judges are generally speaking in like Social Security or other agencies. Administrative judges, my understanding is that they're pretty much always for agencies, and they handle determinations of agency issues. Like a Social Security judge will determine if you qualify for Social Security benefits. What percent disabled are you? Their shit's reviewable. Do they have to be actual attorneys? I don't know. I've never looked into it. That'd be a great question. The judge always says it'll be handled at trial, and Sav always says it has to be handled now. Yeah, because that's where the facts come out. The facts come out at trial. The personal jurisdiction over you was handled when you got handed the ticket, or when you got arrested and hauled in front of the magistrate, or whatever. But yeah, a dismissal is a win, and Juan Gault admitted it. Well, that's not a win on your part. It is a win. It is a technical win. You showed up. The other side didn't. You won. Congratulations. It doesn't actually mean anything. Nothing was adjudicated on the merits. You're not seeing any of this. There you go. Now you're seeing it. Is it D'Arcy? Is it D'Arcy? You would be the D'Arcy. Who's Thugger Daily? I don't know what we're talking about here. Patent attorneys? Oh yeah, you've got to have like a STEM degree, or it's something else like that. Yeah. Do they make bank? Probably. But you know who make the biggest bank? Probably PI attorneys. Well, there you go. Jasper Kalin comes in hot and heavy with the research. Jasper Kalin, my man. I got a lot of respect for Jasper Kalin. Jasper Kalin has been an excellent resource to have. If you're ever looking for an attorney to work for out in California, Jasper, you let me know. I will hire you, and I will put you to work. I just hope that your aptitude in court is as good as your aptitude at research. That's a weird thing. I work with another attorney. I employ an attorney who is really good. Like, I guess every attorney has their, like, I guess there's the jack of all trades, master of none attorneys. And then there's some attorneys who are really good at research. And there's some attorneys who are really good at I don't know, reviewing evidence. everybody has their little strengths. I'm one of those jack of all trades, master of none guys. But I talk like I know what the fuck I'm talking about. People tend to accept that. Even judges sometimes. It's fucking weird. It's fucking weird. All right. Anyway, dismissal is a win. Yeah.
And for instance, the Ohio Supreme Court has ruled that the uniform traffic citation form, which many states.
Oh, see, so winning by default is winning. He's he's bragging now over wins by default. So fucking weird. Like, so if I watch arm wrestling sometimes, why? Because why the fuck not? And these two dudes come out and they grab each other's wrists and they pretend like they're going to arm wrestle, and then they snap each other's arms back, and they don't get anywhere or do anything. And so then the judge will have to like strap their wrists together, and they bitch and they complain about it until finally they grunt and sweat and maneuver the other guy's arm down. Right? That's a win. You've worked for it. You've done the blood, sweat, and tears to get to the point where you could pin that other monster's arm down on the mat, and that's a win. But let's say you show up for the tournament and your opponent like forfeits because he injured himself in training the day before. Well, that's technically a win. I mean, you won, right? But there's an asterisk by it. If you go into like the sports pages, like MMA guys, if they win by default, there's an asterisk by it. It's you won by default. You won like because your opponent couldn't show up and fight. It's technically a win, but it's an asterisk win. So he's bragging right now over asterisk wins. How many dismissals do I have? Well, how many dismissals do you have on the merits? That's a better question. Like, how many times did you argue jurisdiction and win?
States use the same form is prima facie evidence. It contains prima facie evidence, and that is all that's needed to establish jurisdiction.
And see, this is where Juan Gault argues just the subject matter, territorial jurisdiction, and subject matter jurisdiction.
And for instance, the Ohio Supreme Court has ruled that the uniform traffic citation form, which many states use the same form, is prima facie evidence. It contains prima facie evidence, and that is all that's needed to establish jurisdiction.
Get out of my table. Fuck
right.
you.
And Gary, right, all this jazz about being commercial activity goes back to the misinterpretation of the word employed in Black's Law Dictionary. Yeah.
This facts or frauds guy. What? Why did you waste air times with him? I don't know. So he goes on to say, so it's not proof of jurisdiction. Well, because what Juan Gault was answering was about a different kind of jurisdiction. It's prima facie evidence. Oh, look who's fucking jealous as hell, WTT. Come on up, buddy. I'll suck you off too. I'm an equal opportunity sucker offer guy. So Juan Gault was answering the subject matter jurisdiction. So he had to say, it's prima facie evidence. It's rebuttable evidence. There is a presumption that it's correct. It's presumed correct until evidence is presented to the contrary, or until evidence is presented otherwise. The allegation, like for example, in a civil matter, where you could bring a civil case in California, there, you got to bring it in the county where normally you got to bring it in the county where the defendant lives, right? So how you get it into that county is you file a complaint, and in the complaint you allege the defendant lives in that county. It's that simple. That gives the court jurisdiction over it. How do you relieve the court of jurisdiction over it in a civil matter? Over jurisdiction over it as far as the subject matter is concerned. Well, you file a motion to to transfer venue, because venue isn't proper. I mean, technically, subject matter jurisdiction and venue are different, but work with me here. California doesn't have multiple courts of original jurisdiction. We only have one court of original jurisdiction, so it's a lot harder for me to use a California example for subject matter jurisdiction, but you get the point. So you file a motion in California to transfer venue to the correct court. And as soon as you file that motion, the court that you have filed the lawsuit in, or the court that the lawsuit was filed in, loses the jurisdiction to make any decision in that case other than the decision on the motion to transfer venue. You've stripped away jurisdiction for that court, for that county court to make any decision in that case until it decides whether or not to transfer. And then once it decides to transfer it, then it's limited to, I can only make jurisdictional, I only have jurisdiction to make orders enforcing that transfer. Or if I deny it, then I have complete jurisdiction over it again, if that makes any sense. I don't know why the goddamn chickens keep getting up. Don't peck at my power button. Don't peck at my power button. I swear to Christ. Get off here. Goddamn chickens. Someday I'm going to pluck you and eat you. I don't give a shit. All right.
Yeah, employed just means making use of. It doesn't have anything to do with working. It's just making. So you're saying you're useless. Is that what you're saying to each other? I'm not employed. So you're useless. Thanks. Put that on your bumper sticker, please. I'm useless. All right, next question.
But it is proof of jurisdiction. See, I said it proves jurisdiction, but I was talking specifically about personal jurisdiction. Juan was talking about subject matter jurisdiction. It is proof of subject matter, or it is prima facie evidence of subject matter jurisdiction. It's enough to get it in front of the court. It is definitely proof of personal jurisdiction.
During for the jab fair. Okay, so the stop for the request for leave the state or go to work, and you know how it happened. I don't. That is nothing.
And I'm surprised, and I maybe it.
Isn't it weird though? Isn't it weird that Juan says something? I can make chicken soup out of that bird. When Juan says something that BSBT likes, oh well, then he's your legal daddy. But if Juan says something that he doesn't like, oh, you've got dementia issues. It's selective. It's very selective.
Interstate had to prove that they can they're not an unreasonable.
Yeah, I had the same. You can't tell me I can't go anywhere, and they tried to dual residency.
And you're under the federal power.
Oh, I'm just talking like just say workers were allowed out.
You couldn't get in your car and go to the grocery store to get some milk.
So again, here it's not proof of subject matter jurisdiction. It's prima facie evidence of subject matter jurisdiction. So at trial, you can show that there's no subject matter jurisdiction, but it is proof of personal jurisdiction. It is proof of personal jurisdiction.
Well, as long as you wear a heavily spacesuit and say be out and about, unless you're an essential worker. Are we leaning on those opposites? Bastardized.
I have a feeling that's come from a contract for them to apply to. I don't know that they bastardize that. To drive is not a contract.
But they claim it is.
Well, they can say they say all sorts of things, but it's not because they consent to the traffic codes operating some kind of vehicle.
Hendrick, I know.
I think so, but every
state's different. But
So the state would have to prove jurisdiction. Stoney says to prove the court doesn't have jurisdiction since you're making the claim, burden of proof is on you. The state would have to prove jurisdiction. They would have to prove get off the table. So, for example, territorial jurisdiction. The state to haul you into court in California, they would have to prove that California has a criminal has criminalized that particular activity, and that you committed that within the territorial jurisdiction of California, which can be an issue. Like if you're out of state doing something that affects issues in state. What are you doing? What are you doing, bird? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? I swear. You poop on my stuff. Buck, buck, buck to you too. Buck, buck, buck. Get out. You don't respect me. See, that's the problem. You don't respect me. You're going to put some respect on it. You're going to put some respect on it. Get some camera time? Huh? Now what? Now you're an internet star. How about that? How about that? Poop your news. Oh, you're quicker than I am. Goddamn bird. Goddamn bird. Get! I get no respect. I get no respect. I hope you enjoyed the bird. I don't even know if you saw the bird. Anyway, what were we talking about? Quit pecking at my goddamn power button. Boof, 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 boof. Buck, 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 buck. These are the high quality streams that I provide you. Yeah, you can't get entertainment like this just anywhere. All right. So yes, the state would have to, and like for example, if you're in a place where like so the state would have to prove, like, if you're getting a traffic ticket, like the traffic infraction happened at a certain location, that would give the court, the specific court you're in front of, jurisdiction or venue, however it is, to hear it. If it's an actual jurisdictional issue, if you're in a state where like there's a municipal court or a justice court or district court or whatever, you have all these different courts. The state would have to prove the elements that give the particular court jurisdiction to hear the matter. I could always get geese. My wife doesn't want geese. I believe I've almost convinced her to get ducks. I would love to get a couple ducks. I've got a pond. I'd love to have some ducks in the pond, and I would love to get some duck eggs. I want duck eggs. I believe California, so like everybody started moving out of California, weirdly enough, after California got all authoritarian and draconian in the lockdowns. Like Musk and a lot of like big companies decided that, you know what, it would make sense for us to move our operations to a more friendly state. And so there was a large exodus of people. Really? Look, are you coming back up here? There's a lot of people who were leaving. So California was going to get hit with some major budget reductions, and we're already spending quite a bit more. Newsom came in with quite a big budget surplus, and he's managed to whittle that away quite drastically into debts. Really? Get. And so basically California passed some sort of a tax that they would be able to get you for the next year or something like that. I don't remember the exact details of it because, well, I'm not moving because I'm a California sunshine baby and I plan on staying here. Thank you very much. But it was pretty shitty And I don't know exactly how they do it, but they did or are trying to. Anyway, I think I've rambled long enough. Moving tax, something like that. I think I've rambled long enough. I've exhausted my patience with this. You think he prevailed in federal court? Well, he should. I don't know how California, once you change residency, I don't know how California would manage to be able to keep taxing you, because the full faith and credit shit, right to travel. Our boy Juan Gault was touching on the right to travel. Right to travel would allow you to move to another state, and that other state would have to treat you like any other resident of that state, which kind of by inversion would make you believe that if they have to treat you like any other member of that state, then California would have to treat you like any other member of that state. So I'm not really familiar with firearms laws like Illinois has. I don't know if you know how shitty California's firearms laws are. They're pretty shitty. There are a large amount of handguns that I can't buy directly new from the store. I can buy them from law enforcement officers or from other private parties who already own them. Like I can legitimately buy a banned handgun from another party, but I can't buy it direct from the store. So the way California works is you've got to go to the store and get a background check to buy ammunition, which is lame. There are certain guns that are on the approved, handguns are on the approved list. And the approved list basically means that the handgun manufacturer has paid an extortionate amount of money to get the handgun placed on that list, on the approved list. And a slight variant, a slightly different model. Like, for example, the right-handed version of a gun, the manufacturer, like let's say Smith & Wesson, is paid to place on that list. If they produce a left-handed version of the gun, exactly the same, except a mirror image of it, it would not be an allowed firearm. So what that means is you would not be able to buy it brand new from the store. However, a peace officer can go and buy it from the store as soon as it becomes available to him, because even peace officers have fucking waiting periods. Even cops have waiting periods to buy handguns in California. So he can buy it, and then he can immediately sell it to you. The store would have to handle it because firearms transactions have to be through FFL dealers in California. So he could sell that firearm that he just bought to you. Now, you couldn't buy it from the store, but you could buy it from him, and the store will process your transaction to get it from him to you. This motherfucking bird. I don't know what is up here. Are you just that interested in my used napkins? Jesus. Anyway, California has some really stupid laws. We have the gayest AR-15 laws ever. Get. You're not gonna lay an egg up here. Get. Buck. Get. Thank you. But I don't know what firearms laws Illinois has. Illinois has a lot of fucking firearms for a place that has some pretty severe firearms restrictions. So I don't know how bad it would affect me. Plus, I have a giant fucking safe full of guns already. I'm honestly not really, I haven't really been buying a lot of guns. I've got a lot of guns. So, and I don't think they could criminalize the guns I already have. I mean, maybe they could, but how would they know, right? In California does have a great lawyer like Michael Eline. Well, see, I bought guns and magazines long before the 10-round mag limit went into effect, and I never turned. I mean, allegedly, I never turned in any of my magazines that were greater than 10 rounds. allegedly. But I also never got into any gangland shootouts or anything like that. And I have 10-round magazines if I need to switch them out. You know what I'm saying? But now apparently, I don't even know what the state of it is right now. Apparently there was a time anyway where a judge had ruled the 10-round magazine ban to be unconstitutional, and so you could buy them, and then they got to stay on that, but it grandfathered in the ones that you'd already bought. And then how can they prove? Like, I could go into Nevada and just buy magazines for days. I mean, they don't do background checks on magazines. I mean, no one fucking cares, right? Hope no one comes knocking to check that safe or check that out since you said it out loud. I don't really fucking care if they do. I mean, I have this beautiful thing called the Fourth Amendment, and I know how it works. And I never said where anything was. I mean, if someone gets a search warrant, then great. Fucking have at it, kids. Do it. Oh, Melissa, you're adorable. You're adorable, but yeah, I'm showing my level of concern. Anyway, like I said about, I don't know, half hour ago, I'm done with BSBT, and I appreciate you guys. I'm going to try to go to bed. I think the stimulant effects of the cold medicine is wearing off, and hopefully I'm going to be able to go to sleep. I'm feeling fucking hella tired, but I know I'm going to lay down, and my nose is just going to start running, and then I'm not going to sleep, and then sleep apnea from the cold, etc. It's all going to be fun and games, but that's my burden, not yours. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful evening or morning, afternoon, whenever.